ladies and gentlemen, Gemini 3 is finally here. After months of waiting, hundreds of bait posts, and tons of fake news, the time has finally arrived. Google released their new frontier model Gemini 3, or more specifically, Gemini 3 Pro Preview. And in this video, we'll be going over all the important details that you need to know, but first let's take a look at what I created with it so you can get a glimpse of its agentic capabilities. Before we do get started, however, I do want to quickly mention that as of a few days ago, you can use Gemini 3 in Shiori, which is an AI chat app that I developed. The link is in the description, go check it out. Anyways, let's get started with something relatively difficult, and that is to build a web-based Linux-like OS called Neko OS. It should include basic apps and a web browser. I actually ran this test in two different places. First, as you can see here, is the Gemini platform, and the second is Anti-Gravity, which is Google's new agentic IDE. Just a heads up, this was basically forked from Windsurf, and this is how the web version looks like. So we have a terminal, we have a web browser, a file manager, calculator, and a Photos app. Now the terminal actually works. We can type in clear, we can type in ls, and let's see what other commands are available. All these commands are available, and it even has neofetch. That's quite cool. I didn't tell it to do that. Now this works, and it probably used xterm.js for it. And if you have a look at the web browser, it's very nice. You can also move the tabs around. Let's try something. x.com doesn't work. Okay, so the web browser is, as far as I know, not functional. Okay, that's fine. I didn't tell it to implement that. Have a look at the file manager. This also doesn't work. So this is also just the UI, which is, again, fine. The calculator should work. Yep, this works. Times 6, we can clear. 8 divided by 9. There, okay. So it's not very dynamic, but it works. Then we have the pictures, which is the most important thing, obviously. And we have cats. That's a cool cat. I'd say this is a good start. It didn't completely blow away my expectations, but this sets a good precedent for the future. And especially because this really doesn't look AI generated at all. Now let's take a look at the version that Anti-Gravity created. Now to open Anti-Gravity, all you need to do is to type AGY, which is a funny reference to AGI obviously, and then the directory we want to open it in, and we just hit enter. And in the beginning, it will look like this. Now, in my opinion, this is horrible placement for the input bar, but that's not really important. What we're here for is the AI capabilities. So if we have a look at the chat that created this entire Neko OS, you can see it's quite long, and it also contains more than one user request. And the reason for that is because the rate limits on Anti-Gravity for Gemini 3 are completely terrible. After 5 minutes or so of coding, they blocked me. And apparently I'm not the only one that's saying this. For example, believe it or not, the limits are actually the same for Ultra subscribers, which is the $200 a month plan for Google AI. And as you can see, the quota refreshes every 5 hours. Yeah, the limits are not very great. But fact is, it's still a free product and it's still in beta, so we'll have to wait for now. But thankfully, it still was able to do the core product with Gemini 3, and then just using other models like Claude Sonnet 4.5, I, as you can see here, wrote continue, and it kind of worked out in the end. So let's actually take a look at how it looks like. And it looks like this. Now from the UI, it's almost like the previous one was better, since we don't have these desktop icons here, but the thing that completely blew me away is the terminal. Oh, so yeah, we need to run it first again. If we refresh this, we can check the terminal, and as you can see, it's not emulating any terminal. It's actually connecting to my local machine using WebSockets. Now, although yes, I did specify that in the prompt, this is quite cool to see. So if you do ls, for example, you can see all the folders in my home directory. It's clear. Let's check out the current path, which is my user. Yeah, overall, really, really cool. So this is basically a shell in the website. Now we can close this. We can open the web browser, and this actually also blew me away. This is a fully functioning web browser. If we go to x.com, this works wonderfully. And another crazy thing here is this is actually not just an iframe. What it did here is create a proxy server using Hono.js so that the OS is not blocked by content security policies, or CSP. And these kind of problem-solving skills is exactly what I noticed in Gemini 3. It has a more flexible way of thought, more similar to humans than AI models we've seen previously. For example, Claude models are way more rigid in their way of thinking. So this feels like a huge leap from that. And the rest is nothing revolutionary. We have the Photos app, again with the cat pictures, and we have the calculator. Now, one thing that I did notice as well is its ability to use browser tools, which I really didn't expect it to have. So when it faced this USB error, it actually made a screenshot of Chromium and checked the browser logs to see what was wrong. Now obviously I've not tested this model nearly enough, but again, the rate limits on anti-gravity were just way too small. And the only other place I could use Gemini 3 for coding was Cursor. And you all know how much I hate Cursor with a deep passion. And it's not their technology or their UI or anything like that, but exactly for the same reason. Their rate limits and their pricing. Now, because I'm a good guy, I specifically reactivated my subscription just for this video. And lo and behold, I regretted my decision very quickly. Just 1 minute into coding with Gemini 3, I started getting the server overloaded error. And the problem is, it didn't save the progress. Now obviously it makes sense since you can't continue an existing stream with a different model, but it still ticked me off. Like, don't try to squeeze as much out as possible, just let me know at the beginning if the servers are overloaded, and don't just block me when I'm in the middle of my work. And unfortunately I didn't have any other solution but just to wait, and that is what I did. And after a day or two I managed to put together a few examples. And one such example is a black hole simulation. So if you take a look, it looks like this. Now I'm no expert obviously, but this does look like a black hole to me. And you can even play around with it here. You can change the mass of it. You can change your distance. You can increase the intensity of the accretion disk, which is this yellow thing right here. Or sorry, no, it's this. Well, it's both really, this blue ring and the yellow ring. You can increase relativistic jet, which is the thing that comes out of the black hole on the top and bottom. So this is how it looks like. It also added a button here, randomize settings, which I told it to, and looks like this. We can also change the theme. So for example, ice giant, which looks really, really cool. Then we have toxic waste, which doesn't look nice. It's waste. We have the psychedelic version as well. Now that we've tested its science capabilities, it's time to check its UI skills. We can do that by running the server using dev. Let's open this in our browser, and this is what it looks like. This is actually very, very surprising. This looks really, really good. And what I asked it to do is to create a landing page for Shiori. Now, I won't really be incorporating this since an AI chat app doesn't really need a landing page. Take note, Claude. There are these buttons here and they don't really do anything, but the animations are really cool. This marquee animation is also very, very nice, and it even has a hover effect. And these cars are also nice. Like, it's not really uniform here, but still looks very good. Overall, I'd say we'd give this a solid 7 out of 10. Now with the practical tests out of the way, let's focus on the benchmarks. Now the benchmarks are available on the release blog of Gemini 3. Let's actually take a look. So it scored 37.5% on humanity's last exam, also known as HLE. Now I will be doing a video on this benchmark very soon, since I think this will be a very important benchmark in the future, or it basically already is. It's important to note that this score was without any tools, and with search and code execution, it scored a whopping 45.8%. And if we take a look at the HLE benchmarks in general, we see that it's the best model by far at HLE. The one before it scored 31%, which is GPT-5 Pro. This should give you a caliber of the insanity of this model. Another crazy benchmark is Math Arena Apex, which is a really difficult math exam, and it scored 23.4%. To show you the insanity of this score once again, you can see at the results for Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is only 0.5%. And for Claude Sonnet 4.5, it is 1.6%. So it's almost 15 times better than the other frontier models. Now, however, in coding, it's not looking so good, honestly. While yes, 76.2% is very good, Claude Sonnet still beats it. And I didn't really expect this from the latest frontier model from Google. So you can basically assume that it's the best in every single subject except for coding. And I've noticed this myself while using it. And this goes specifically for languages such as Swift or even C. Now lastly, I do also want to mention the pricing of the model, and it's $2 per 1 million input tokens and $12 per 1 million output tokens, which is honestly a very good price, especially considering the competition. I mean, seriously, OpenAI, I don't think you will survive like this. Now, what can you specifically take away from this video? You can safely assume that Gemini 3 Pro is the best model right now for everything except for coding. For that, Sonnet still beats it, and in my opinion, along with the newly released GPT 5.1 Codex Max by OpenAI. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Also, make sure you like this video.